Thank you for being here so early this morning. I know JP Morgan has just started, but for most of you probably Monday was already a tough day with all the receptions and everything, so I appreciate it that you're here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you also to the panel members, and I think we just get started with a little round of introductions, and then after the introductions I have some questions that we can go through with the panel just to discuss. I think that would take maybe something like 20 minutes or so. And then we can use the rest of the time for questions from the audience. So really like to involve you in the discussion. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to raise your hand and throw them out, because it's always good to have a lively discussion. So thank you again for being here. And let me start with the lady on the left. And I don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm just asking you to introduce yourself.
That's fine, absolutely.
We go from there. Thank you.
I'm Rachel Ray. I'm the Director of Business Development and Licensing at Medtech, specifically within our Surgical Innovations Division. So that's legacy committee going about 5 years back. So I manage everything from external opportunities, really looking at licensing, distribution, acquisition, investment, and even taking a look at our internal portfolio, looking at divestitures as well as of businesses that may no longer be strategic for us any longer.
Nick Morales, I'm the New Ventures Group within J&J Innovations, supporting our medical device franchise. So we cover orthopedics, general surgery, neuro intervention, and treatments for atrial fibrillation. Looking at early stage assets that we can partner with to do either R&D collaborations or active investments in support of the strategy of our operating company. Been in the role at J&J for 4 years now. Prior to that, I spent 12 years in early stage medical device companies.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yasko. I am with Olympus. I am responsible for technology scouting activities and global business development in the US and technology innovation office back in Japan. A little bit about myself. Prior to Olympus, I worked for corporate venture capital and doing a medical device investment, and also venture capital focused on the entire spectrum of life science. And prior to that, I worked for a startup company. I'm in the medical device field nearly 20 years. My role with Olympus is to scout innovative and advanced medical technologies and identifying a company for new partnership opportunities.
My name is Chihiro Hosoya. I'm from Astellas RX Plus Business Accelerator. RX Plus is a new concept that was brought by Astellas. Astellas is a pharmaceutical company, but we are really trying to make entry to medical device or new innovation technology. And RX Plus is the concept that we try to find a new revenue stream, combining the expertise of the pharmaceutical business and the new technology field. And medical device is one of the examples. So we are not looking for some drug delivery device which is utilized for pharmaceutical business. Those are pharmaceutical business units' responsibility. I would like to really find new technology that can really treat the patient outcome or really do the precision surgery. So those are the examples that we are pursuing. And I'm responsible for venture management as well as the business development for the RX Plus business in Astellas.
So my name is Ronald Doornbos. I have a background in microbiology and neuroscience. About 10 years ago I moved into industry, and since then I've been mostly done business development, project management and consulting, mostly helping companies with their innovation and technology strategy. For the last 2.5 years I was with Takeda, exactly doing that, helping with technology and innovation, bringing in novel companies, novel academic partners, closed about a little over a dozen deals during that time. And I've just decided a week ago, actually, well, I made a decision a little earlier, but a week ago I left Takeda because some other opportunities presented itself, and I decided to explore those in more detail, and that's probably what's going to be a decision in the next 2 or 3 months or so. I've done a lot of work with medical tech, devices, drug delivery systems and such, and so that's why I think I was asked for moderating this panel. And so to get started, I think it would be very interesting to hear a little bit from the different people on the panel. We have a very nice variety of companies here being represented. To hear a little bit more about the kind of strategy that you follow. So how do you define what you're looking for? And maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that because you're also, you're all representing very different companies. So maybe Rachel can start and then we'll just follow them.
Sure. So we do have strategy leads within each of our businesses.
And can everybody hear Rachel in the back?
Is this better? Okay, I'll try to project a little bit more too. So we have strategy leads within each of our businesses that help define the strategy, but we also take an active role in looking at opportunities to reinvigorate or modify our strategy through inorganic opportunities. Whether that be, like I said, acquisition, distribution, or longer term looking at investment and then having an opportunity to internally market or reinvigorate our pipeline going forward. So we work very closely with our R&D teams, our strategy teams, and making sure that we're aligned on where the business is going and where we want it to go longer term.
So I think similarly, we have strategic leads within each of our operating companies. So global strategic marketing does the upstream planning on what disease states we are going to go after and what supporting technologies and kind of interesting adjacencies might be available. So I sort of get a shopping list from each of the operating companies for the types of things that they are looking for. But fundamentally, if J&J has a presence in a clinical area, if you have a technology or a product that can shift the clinical outcome in a meaningful way, that's going to be fundamentally of interest to us. And I'd say that's maybe similar to Rachel, that's our opportunity to push on strategy, to come back and say, hey, this wasn't on strategy, this fits our sales point, this fits our technology capabilities, and we'd like you to consider this asset for investment or collaboration.
So it's a little bit of both. You look for specific solutions for certain challenges that you have, but also when you see something new, then you bring that to the company and you see whether you can implement that.
That's right. And fundamentally, if it's on strategy, we're looking for things that will leapfrog our internal programs or in adjacencies that are interesting or compelling that we can just have an interest in.
Olympus is traditionally a technology push manufacturer. However, we announced recently the Transform Olympus to be more agile on responding to market change and improvement on the speed, decision making, and the business management. And we decided to divide into two areas, which are endoscopic solution and the therapeutic solution. Olympus has over 70% worldwide share of the endoscope market. We definitely focus on that. But to be more agile, working with startups, and instead of everything we built in-house, we work with more third-party startup universities or even research firms for inorganic growth. So that the inorganic growth for us is essential to be more global. And business development unit is more like focused on the incremental business, but I also work with Technology Innovation Global back in Japan. It's more like R&D, but we focus on the radical innovations which business unit or business development are not really mainly focusing.
And did you say that you're also working with external partners that can help you with innovation and can help you with bringing in technologies, like third parties that help you to do the development and searching?
Yeah, once, for instance, Technology Innovation Global, it's a little bit early, a little riskier R&D development, but we nurture and work as co-development procedures.
Chihiro?
As as I mentioned, Astellas is a pharmaceutical company, so we are trying to build a strategy in our Plus area, which includes medical device. And recently, we've set a 3 goals which we would like to achieve in our Plus business. One is to utilize the data so that we can maximize the outcome of the patient. The other one is to provide medical solution to those who are limited access with the current medication. That's something we can do beyond the pharmaceutical business. And the third one is to support a physical or sensory function of those who are not really good at those. And those are the 3 values that we would like to achieve in our Plus business. And when we look at the external opportunity, we are very agnostic to therapeutic areas, so we don't really stick to those which is currently done by pharmaceutical business. We would like to find opportunity which really fit with our value, which I just mentioned. And in finding a new way, it's really important for us to be able to contribute. So even though we are not newbie to medical device, we would like to find some way that Astellas can contribute in the startup or the new innovation. That's our goal.
Yeah, so a little bit similar also with Takeda. So we have actually very specific areas. So Takeda is divided in different DDUs and TAUs. DDUs being drug discovery units, TAUs being the therapeutic area units. So therapeutic area units are more looking into therapeutics that are already in clinical phase, whereas the DDUs are really doing the discovery. And there are people that specifically for the disease area that they're working on, oncology, neuroscience, GI, rare diseases, look for specific medical device technologies that can be combined with some of the therapeutics they are working on. But then we also have other groups, and I was part of one of those groups, very agnostic of therapeutic area, a little bit like what you described, and really looking basically for everything that could be a fit in the company. I myself, I built a network of a little over 400 people within the organization of Takeda. That's still only 1% of the company, but it's still a pretty nice network. And it meant that also if I would come across something that I thought would be of interest, I would bring that to the company, connect it to the right people, see if they were interested. If they were interested, we would move it forward, and then, yeah, that's how things were implemented and rolled forward. Takeda also opened its own medical device center of excellence. So also in-house, we are developing medical devices, but that's also in collaboration. Many of these projects are in collaboration with external partners that already basically made a basis for the technology that they want to develop. And then Takeda works together with these parties to make it bespoke for some of the therapeutics that we are interested in and that fit in our strategy. So maybe a little bit more on also how you find the opportunities. And yeah, please, Rachel, maybe you can start with elaborating on that and take it from there.
Sure, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we partner very heavily with our businesses. So we rely on our businesses to also scaffold technologies. So we are a global company, so we work with our regions within the businesses as well as our global partners to really understand from our sales force what are they hearing, what are they seeing. I also and my partners also attend many of these conferences, this one for instance, and other clinical conferences to help us understand what's going on in the industry or that particular market, and if there are new innovations within that space. So that's really how we work and understand what is evolving. Between all of our feet on the street, we tend to see almost everything, and we also rely on many companies to also reach out to us. So we do have a portal in which they can submit their technology, their invention, or reach out to us directly, and we certainly understand if they have a new or innovative technology that we can work with going forward.
And maybe related to that, you can also elaborate a little bit on when you find something, how do you evaluate, because it's nice to connect to this topic. How do you evaluate the opportunities and how do you make a decision whether or not to work together or to bring such a company into the organization?
Sure. So first we have to understand if it aligns with our strategy. If it does and we want to take another look, we typically have a meeting with the company, a face-to-face meeting. If it's a product that we can test, which is ideally what we'd like to see, especially from early stage companies. We will bring the product samples in-house to actually test and understand the limitations of the product and making sure that it fits not only what we're looking for, but our quality standards and where there may be some gaps. And then from there, we start working on a business case, building the forecast, understanding what the forecast looks like from being the company itself, but then really taking a look at how we view the market and building that business opportunity. So we do sometimes bring an army of Medtronic, if you will, to diligence and have many folks represented from our functions, whether it be regulatory, quality, and such, and really taking a look at if we brought that technology in-house, what it would take for us to commercialize it or to make the sales accelerated over time.
So very similarly, we leverage our operating company, and a lot of opportunities will come through those direct contacts. We additionally have innovation centers in Northern California, Boston, London, and Shanghai that have functions that bring entrepreneurs and investors in. So we hear through opportunities in that way as well. We also have 13 J-Labs incubators, administrators attached incubators that is part of J&J across the globe. So we get to see a lot of new opportunities through that application process. And then obviously the J-Labs companies that do take residence, we get to have connectivity to those over time as they grow. In terms of how we evaluate a typical process, once something comes to me, I will ask for a non-confidential deck, which I can review to do a quick assessment. Does this look like it's on strategy or an adjacency that could be interesting? It's kind of my course filter. If that looks interesting, we'll set up a conversation between the founders and the CEO and one of our R&D in strategic marketing leads that cover that area, and we'll have a conversation again on a non-confidential basis. And then if there's some excitement and interest beyond that, then we'll put a CDA in place and start to go back there and dig in further and really try to identify what's the next de-risking step that has to happen, how much is that going to cost, and then figure out whether it makes sense to do that with an R&D collaboration or an equity investment or some other structure. But that, I would say, maybe for further color, we get a lot of inbound interest, so maybe I'm looking at 300 deals, opportunities in a given year, but then the funnel gets very narrow after that first screen to CDA. There's probably only 6 to 10 things that are under CDA that I'm looking at one time, and then probably move that through to closing 3 deals a year.
Yeah. You also want to keep your legal department as a friend.
Always, always.
Yes. Looking at our business development structure, there are 3 different groups. Technology Scouting Group, which I manage, and M&A Group, and Integration Group. Integration Group is mainly post-merger acquisition. And the deals are usually coming from our solid network. Network from M&A people, network from us, and Olympus has close to 40,000 employees. And startup can talk to anyone, but mainly, first, we are probably the first to contact. And then I do, just like Nicole said, I do the quick due diligence, and if it's aligned with the strategy. And then if there is some interest, I introduce to BD and BU. And we have a discussion there every 2 weeks. And then we talked about the deals. And also, if this is earlier stage, a little bit riskier, like I said, radical innovation, out of the box thinking. I will speak with technology innovation global back in Japan. It's more like focus on R&D so that they can determine, depending on the stage, but if it's a prototype, we can test in our facilities, and also we look at the animal data and determine whether or not we move forward or not.
Astellas is a little unique in evaluating the new RX Plus initiative because in pharmaceutical division we 270,000 people who generate $2 billion of sales, and we know how to research and we know how to evaluate the opportunity. So there is this system to evaluate things similar to that the others mentioned. But in our Plus business, we only have 50 people dedicated to that business, even though we cross-functional work together. But those 50 people really all newbie to our Plus medical device digital health advisory area. So we take advantage of collaboration with venture capitals, which is probably unique to others. And we have 3 dedicated partners, 3 partner venture capitals who RX Plus is dedicated to. One is the digital health fund, the other one is the classic medical device fund, and the other is a university associated fund. And we not only fund the fund, venture capital, but also we send people there to work closely day by day, and we learn from them how to evaluate the company, how to raise the company, how to monitor the company, so that we can appropriately work together, not only the short basis, but also in a area we live with the startup company with the venture capital, so that we can learn from both perspectives. It's not really evaluation because we don't know how to evaluate, but we learn as we work together. And that's how we have been working in the past 2-3 years. Going forward, we would have to be able to find the set evaluation team, but right now we are taking advantage of the investment. We also do the direct investment from our Plus unit in Astellas, and we usually start with investment, and then we can learn together and then do the partnership. Those are the usual practice in Astellas.
Yeah, so at Takeda, it's basically looking at companies that we see at conferences, at all kinds of events, networking. Obviously, being in Boston, well, I am in Boston. You see a lot of activity, you see a lot of companies coming by, we get a lot of emails from companies. So there's this active way of searching, but there's also a very passive way of searching, because every morning I came into my work, I open my email box, and there's at least like 100 emails to go through, and so many of those are of companies that would like to work with Takeda. So that's finding them. Then when you find them, of course, you need to evaluate. Well, I told you about my network, so that network is very important to include the right experts to really evaluate what are these deals worth and how can they fit into the organization. The first scan was then done by myself. I've seen probably over 1,000 companies over the last 2 years, and a lot of that is a very quick look through the non-confidential deck, as Nick was also saying, and you can almost immediately tell whether or not something is relevant or not, and whether something is solid or not. So I would say of those 1,000, maybe 200 were left that were worth to investigate further, so involving some of the experts. Then after that filter, you are left maybe with 50 or so. Then you put a CDA in place, you start the talks, conversations, and after that round, maybe 20 or so are left. And in the end of that 2-year time period, I closed a little over a dozen deals. So that tells you that there's really only a small amount of the companies that you see that eventually will also end up to really be included in the operations of Takeda. I wanted to say something else, but it slipped my mind. But anyway, so you evaluate those companies. Oh yeah, I remember. So because years ago we had a group which was called New Frontier Sciences, and that was a group that was really looking for moonshots, really sci-fi stuff that was Star Trek-y, that was really like very fancy. And they started a lot of projects around these kind of technologies. And after a couple of years, it turned out that really nothing succeeded. And that's not a model that a pharma company can use for too long. So that group was disbanded, a new group was formed. At that point I joined Takeda, and I helped also to establish this group called Materials and Innovation. And within this group we were still looking at fancy stuff, at sci-fi stuff, but also with in mind, well, is this realistic? Can we bring this in a relatively short time, and short time being 3 years, that was kind of the window that we gave ourselves. If we cannot move this forward to really a good application in the company or to commercialization, then it's not worth our time. So really that 3-year window was basically the limit. And anything that we saw that was already have proof of concept, have good, solid functioning technology, that was worth to look at further, and we started working with some of those companies. And then what we also did to de-risk it was that we repeated some of the things that had been done by the external company. We repeated that inside to make absolutely sure that what we saw from the company was also actually feasible and doable and reproducible. And so that helped a lot, and you saw that the success rate of these deals that we did in that way also were much higher than the deals that we had been involved in beforehand. So I think that's very important. And maybe you talk a little bit about also what Astellas is doing from their side. Something I want to also mention that a lot of the smaller companies see a big pharma company only as a big money pot, and in a way that's a little bit true. But it's of course much more. At Takeda we really pride ourselves in also providing assistance with all kinds of different things. You can think of legal assistance, you can think of marketing, you can think of sales, you can think of many other things that can be very important for a small company to have that. Not even to talk about the expertise that you bring with a company that has 50,000 people around the globe, has equipment that most of the small companies cannot afford. And so with this, and also with providing resources like people to help the companies to really succeed in their efforts to bring new technology to market, that's incredibly helpful. And then you also really talk about collaboration that become collaboration because you really work together on something. And maybe you can also hear a little bit from the other companies, Medtronic, J&J, Olympus. What you do more than only providing funding, because obviously you do much more than that. And you can tell a little bit more about that, and also maybe about the business model that you use for working with small companies.
Sure. So with Medtronic, we do have a venture arm that sits at corporate, and so the business is actually a partner with our venture arm in looking at early stage technologies. So our venture arm could go in solely into an investment in working with the company. They can also partner, and we have an equity stake, a business would have an equity stake in a venture as well. So we work really closely with our ventures group. Other ways that we partner with early stage companies is, like I said, either licensing, following the companies along the way. If we do have an equity investment, we do help the company in providing advice, providing referrals as needed to really make sure that they're following a path that makes sense, that will lead them to success in the long run.
So the way that we try to engage the startup ecosystem is to have a partner facility or function no matter what stage of maturity you're at. So if you're two people in the garage with an idea, that's a great spot to engage with our J Labs, because we have office space and equipment and mentoring and programming to kind of help you figure out how to get going for the first time. On the other end of the spectrum, you already have approval and revenue and you're growing. That's a great time for business development to engage. Upstream of business development is where our venture capital JDC typically plays. While they will do investments on down the spectrum, their sweet spot is really around the pivotal trial for a PMA device or your early commercialization effort, which is a 510K. Then upstream of JDC is where the new ventures group plays. That's the group that I'm in. I'm looking for something that has IP, has a clear regulatory pathway, has a device that's producing some data, whether that's preclinical data or commercial demand data. So in this way, we've got groups that can provide feedback and guidance no matter where you're at. And say, you know, I heard your comment that you want to look at things that are 3 years. So, you know, each of the groups kind of have their own sensitivities around what the window to commercialization is. But even if you're kind of not at the right spot to be onboarded, I would say it's good to come in early to get guidance from the JJ or the other strategics, you know, at the next spot, what does the data need to look like, either in size or endpoint, so that you're spending your dollars wisely, so that when you get there, we don't, the other strategics don't say, hey, that's great, I wish you would have done this just a little bit differently. Could you go run that experiment again for the next 18 months? So I would say engage early, get feedback on what next data set would make the opportunity most exciting.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, with the 3 years window, I did not mean that companies that are not there yet should not reach out to us. I mean, it's very important, like Nick says, to reach out early and to also get guidance on how to take the next steps.
Olympus does not have a CVC or incubation center like other companies, other bigger medical device companies. But we do provide the resource depending on the stage of your startups. If you need some co-development for the earlier stage, we do help them to nurture the technologies. And the other resource that we did in the past, we did equity investment, although we don't have a CVC. Business development, we invested a BPH company in Israel. That's about 20 million. And also we did co-development this company called AI for GI. That's for the AI software algorithm to complement our endoscopy procedures. But this is for GI, however, we're thinking of expand the application not only GI for the other procedures. So that I would say licensing for development and providing resources to major departments.
Even in Astellas, we have several research and development collaboration with medical device company. And doing so, it's important for us again for us to find an area that Astellas can really contribute, which means we like the company who has platform, and then by collaborating with Astellas, if we can enhance the platform's capability, that's the best way to collaborate. One example is the IOTA Bioscience, which we started with investment, and we recently did the research collaboration. And IOTA Bioscience develops the ultra small medical device implantable, and they have unique technology, but their application could have been limited because of the small startup. And by doing the research collaboration with Astellas, we can input multiple ideas to the platform, and then that platform will be expanded by collaboration with Astellas. So that kind of platform expansion is ideal collaboration style for Astellas in our business.
Yeah, something similar we also did at Takeda, where we found a technology company that was making nanospan membranes, and we found an application for perianal fistulas, which is a side effect of Crohn's disease. And that collaboration worked very well. The company itself had never thought of any application like that, but I think it's really wonderful when you find companies and you see a technology that you can really apply to something specific in your own company, and then can help that company that you work with also to develop it into that direction. So yeah, that's very good. So with that, we have only about 20 minutes left. So I would like to give the audience also a moment to ask some questions. So anybody?
Yeah, Robert Lauritsen from Cerebral. We're sort of working with making faster, safer throughput with diagnostic workflow AI. And I was curious to how relevant sort of non-direct into the therapeutic areas and companies to you guys.
Sorry, can you?
So how relevant when we're talking about software as a medical device that's not directly related to therapeutics but in the diagnostic space? I mean, when you're in pharma, working with pharma, previously the focus is on therapeutic areas and that kind of medical device area, but would it be relevant to have?
So your question is basically when you have like developed software or you have like an AI tool or something like that that's not directly
that works with relevant workflow in healthcare systems.
Yeah. Who would like to go first?
Sure. AI definitely seems to be a buzzword around the industry in the past few years. So it is something that we take a look at. In terms of clinical flow, you may have heard our CEO, Omar, speak a lot about value-based healthcare and how we can improve that, not only in the US, but globally. And so when taking a look at software AI to improve clinical workflow, I do think that could be of interest to our business as well. So even though we are focused on devices, it is something that we keep an eye on.
You're not pharma, so I guess that makes more sense.
Well, I'm definitely pharma, and I can basically agree with her as well that because we see, I give also a lot of presentations about AI in pharma, and so you see that AI is really finding its way in all areas of the pharmaceutical value chain. So you talk about like drug discovery, target discovery, drug development, all the way to pharmacovigilance and really aftermarket applications, and then everything in between. So clinical trials, for example, is another very good example where AI diagnostic tools, prognostic tools, entering patients into the clinical trial. There's a lot of examples of companies that are working in that space. So that's definitely very important, because you can also see that bringing these kind of technologies into the organization may not benefit a specific therapeutic area, but it can basically benefit the whole organization, because you speed up, for example, a clinical trial from like 100% of times, it's going to maybe 20%. And that's of course an enormous win for the organization. And the same can be said about things for drug development, for pharmacovigilance, like I said, even for things like legal, where legal entities are also starting to use AI with natural language processing to very quickly scan the amount of data that is out there about former legal issues, and to see the outcome and to predict what's happening there. So you really see it in all areas of the organization, and definitely worth to contact us if you have something interesting.
I really echo Solomon's point, and even it looks like pharmaceutical business is not really tied to the AI software. The background why Astellas has established the RX Plus business is the landscape change. Like every healthcare industry is changing, and just selling, manufacturing the drug and just sell the product itself may not be sustainable business. So we would like to provide, we foresee the future, a holistic solution should be provided to patients. And like digital is important aspect for all organizations, including marketing and clinical development and drug research, even to enhance the patient outcome maximization. So every function in our organization is looking at the digital aspect.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. So in general, I mean, I look in particular in the Medtech space, but I think this is for biotech. Generally, when a company comes to you, has already traditional investors on board that need an exit event to occur at some stage, so the company is to be acquired from somebody. So you are also a potential acquirer, not just an investor. So how do you handle this conflict of interest in a way? Because are you already discussing when you do the equity investment also of milestone-based condition for acquire the company in the end, or do you allow the company to be acquired from some of your competitors? So how, because that's, in my experience, very critical when you have traditional investors already involved.
So, sure. So if we're investing in a company, our goal is to eventually onboard. But typically there's still a ways to go between where the company is at and where we might be able to onboard. And so more often than not, it's investing with no particular special rights or kind of fixed outcome. And our goal is for the company as investors for that company to be successful, and then hopefully when the data comes out and the data is good, it's still a strategy, we have an opportunity to acquire it. So while we do some structured investments that have real hard rights associated with onboarding, it's typically not that structured.
Similarly to what you said, we look at both structured. It really depends on the opportunity. We're only going to invest if the opportunity aligns with our strategy. Hopefully, our strategy doesn't change over the period of time that we're an investor in the company. If it does, then perhaps we'll let the investment or the acquisition go to one of our competitors. But our goal when we invest in companies is really looking at how do we bring this into the portfolio at the right time.
Yeah, at Takeda it's a little bit also dependent on the early discussion with the company, so we listen to the wishes of the company. If they're really interested in being acquired after the process of working together, then that's definitely an option. But also if they want to go their own way after maybe making bespoke technology for Takeda, then they can go their own way as well. So it's really dependent also on the wishes of the company itself. Another question?
Thanks for that great comments. Can you talk a little bit about how best to get your attention? We all see lots of deals. I think this deals and then here. So what's the best way to get that email response or that call follow-up?
Sure. So if you email us, so feel free to reach out to us at this conference, obviously, and get our email. A lot of folks reach out to me through LinkedIn. We tend to be responsive pretty quickly. I would say in a week or two we'll definitely respond. But it's really important to be clear on what the opportunity is, what the technology is, what you're looking for, what stage you're at. And if you don't answer or provide those responses in the initial introduction, we'll certainly follow up and ask you those questions and make sure it's a fit for our business. But make sure that if you do reach out to us, that you do believe it's a fit for the company, because we also have folks reach out and there are certain things that we just don't do, and so it's not a fit. So make sure you do your homework and then just reach out to us, and usually we respond to you.
If you get a non-confidential back to us, it's very specific. That would give you the best chance of a quick turnaround. If it's, and I get a lot of decks that are kind of confusing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to need some time to figure out what they're doing. Then that kind of drops to the bottom of my queue until I can make time for it. And then just make our jobs easier in terms of, okay, is this a clinical area that we focus on? What are you trying to do from an outcomes perspective, and what stage you're at? I'll get back to folks within 24 hours. It's very crisp with, this is interesting, let's set up a call, or this isn't on strategy, or I like this, but it still needs to be, this other data has to flip up before we can meet the page. So I think most of the folks within J&J, if you give them that kind of specific information, you'll get a reasonable turnaround. It's probably a couple weeks at the outset.
Yeah, I would add some comment that our technology scouting group is maybe the first contact, and sometimes I get 50 pages of business slide deck and a long executive summary, and I have to make a good story and to convince in a team and maximize your competency, so that the concise information with a high level overview is very important to pay attention. And because I don't have much time to review and summarize all your key points, so that's
and you're the best person yourself to do that. So it's very difficult for us if we get so much information to make that into a short. We usually don't have the time to do that. So yeah, really, I think key is to keep it short, concise, and clear to the point, and do your homework.
Could I build on that? I'm not the subject matter expert in every clinical area, and so I like to, of course, filter like, this looks like it's on strategy, but the degree you distill the important points of your opportunity. When I share that with our therapeutic leader area experts within, like, that's the message that's going to go across. So if you aren't crisp, concise, you might get to that, but you might not be have the best chance of getting traction. So think about it as you're going to. I mean, we're kind of, in a way, market makers for our internal companies. We're trying to help you be successful and get engagement, but to the degree that you can give us the best positioning to pass on, it's really helpful.
Yeah, and I think also related to that, some companies immediately ask for a CDA. Earlier I was referring to, we want to keep the legal department as our friend, and so we cannot send everything on to our legal department to get a CDA in place. And the smaller companies, unexperienced companies do that. I mean, they are afraid of big pharma, they're afraid that their ideas are being stolen. We don't have time for that. And even if we had time for that, the PR would be a nightmare if we would steal other small companies' ideas. So, the best way forward is share as much as you can, even if you think a little bit on the confidential level. It's good to share with us what you can so that we really get interested and then can quickly move forward to the confidential level. But yeah, like everybody said, keep it short, do your homework.
Now, let's follow up on that. So, therapeutic area, stage and size are kind of metrics that you're checking off. As far as size of the offering, how important is it for the company to own a certain percentage of the company? And is size of the offering often a determining factor as to whether or not you give it a further look?
can start because I work closely with venture capitals, and then I'm also responsible for corporate strategic investor. And in my impression, corporate CVCs are generally less careful about the valuation or size of the company or the ratio of the ownership. I welcome your thought, but more importantly, how the story fit with the strategy is important. Also, how can we be on board in what timing, in which data set is more important. So when you talk with strategic investors, not too much worry about the size, ratio, or the valuation. In my impression, I would
Yeah, I'd say we're very we're size and stage agnostic. I think what's more important is the total capital that's going to need to go into the university asset to get it into the clinic. Does it make sense in light of the overall opportunity? I would say that's the main thing that we're concerned about.
We do look at both. We look at valuation as well, and making sure that down the road we're going to get a return on our investments. We do have that benchmark as well. We want to make sure that we get a return on our investment. But we do deals with companies, and it's not an equity investment. We'll look at debt as well. So there's various different vehicles for partnership.
So we have another 2-3 minutes, so it's time maybe for another 2 questions. Lady in the back.
Hi, I'm Julie Lawrence, representing the Wharton Alumni Angels Network, and I have a question about how you work or don't with the Angels work. I don't know, that's an open question. 2 things. One is that we often get approached with interesting deals that are beyond our stage, and we value having a place to send them because we all, then we become a place that people want to send good deals if they know we always take them somewhere. So are you open to that? Do you build those kind of relationships? And I think the second thing is another thing that comes up for us is, well, the deal is more attractive to us at an angel or seed level if we feel confident that it's in the profile that will get picked up. And is there a way do you work with earlier stage investors to kind of give them a heads up of the kinds of things that are in your priority list?
I'd say, yes, please send us things that you think would be a fit, but then also understanding what your group looks for, because I'll probably spend 20% of my time helping companies that aren't a fit for J&J, but have a good need, a good technology, a good team, find investors to help those things move forward, because maybe the next deal is on strategy for us. So I think, bilateral information flow is helpful.
So same rules apply, sort of, you shared how you like to receive information, your same sort of approach.
Yes.
Yeah, and don't only send to J&J, also send to Okay, any other, sorry, were there any?
No, it's okay, and similarly, we do share where our priorities are, where we think that there are opportunities for disruption in the market. So we do work with various universities on that and sharing what we're looking for in hopes that in turn, you all come back to us and say, hey, we have this great opportunity for you. You said this was a priority for you. Is it a fit at this time?
Okay, maybe, sorry.
Maybe, but concept, we welcome early stage, but concept itself probably won't fit. We need certain tangible data that was generated from the startup companies. I would prefer to see the advantage of the startup companies.
Okay, maybe one more question? If not, then I'd like to thank you all for being here this early in the day. And I wish you all a good JP Morgan and a great race in RESI. Thank you.